So I'm going to be doing a delete on this truck behind me, and we're just going to jump right into it. And this is going on a 2011 to 2014 F450 pickup box model, F350 or F250. I'm going to be doing custom tunes and deleting the DPF. The EGR is just going to get unplugged basically. From what I understand, it's not much of an issue. And all that we need is this exhaust. This is a 5-inch Flow Pro with a resonator and a tuner and a shift on the fly switch, which you don't necessarily need if you just do a single tune. If you are doing shift on the fly, it's a custom tune, so your tuner will probably look something like this, even if it is a bully dog. You'll have to go into settings, you'll have to connect it to Wi-Fi, which will be in here, but it's not because I already connected it. Then you can check for updates. Once you do that, you can do the cloud file sync, which will be your custom tunes. And in order to get your custom tunes, you have to connect this to your vehicle first. So you just take this thing, bring it out to your truck, press enter, press connect to vehicle. It doesn't even have to program it, it'll just pull it up on your VIN. Because the custom tunes are linked to your VIN, and to find them you just connect it to Wi-Fi, and they're literally just in this cloud file sync option. That will have your custom tunes. And the very first step is to connect this bad boy and update it all completely, firmware, files, everything. Connect it to your vehicle probably first, and then you need to tune your vehicle. So I installed this tune, this custom tune, before I even opened up my exhaust or took my exhaust off. Under the truck, that's the front of the truck obviously. We're gonna start there, or I guess end there. That's the end of the downpipe. And there's a bunch of sensors and stuff. I'm going to unplug just about all of them because I think I can. There's a bunch of these probes, and those can also be unplugged. Other than that, it's just your mounts. To get those out, you just use WD-40 or penetrating lube, and they'll usually slide right out. And it looks like it's going to be about 6 bolts that are held in, so you don't even need a wrench. 2, so there's 6, about 8 bolts in total to take this off. This delete also works on the 2016 and 15, all the way up to about 19. It's pretty much the same, exact same thing. So for my first trick, I'm just going to loosen the downpipe bolts. They were pretty easy. The second bolt way back there, the nuts, they're welded on, so that you don't have to put a wrench on them. Now this back one, I used a swivel and a long extension, 1/2-inch size head bolt, but I guess you don't really need the swivel because this is where I put my torque on it. It's directly straight out. There's kind of a little notch that it fits right through. And they're pretty easy. They're really not that tight. I just use a breaker bar to get them started. I just wanted to point out these two. It's like a double setup to hold the exhaust on, up at the front right beside the downpipe. You can just unbolt it. You go outside of your frame and you'll see these 2 little nuts. You can just unbolt that whole thing and it's not needed. because it is very hard to get in there and try and get those off. I got one off and that was all I could get off, so I just unbolted it. Back at the far end, I got 15 millimeter head size for 1, 2, 3, and way back here on this long length of drill stem pipe that is the exhaust, there's another 1, 2, 3, and then just these hangers, and I just spray them with liquid wrench really good, and they don't ever seem to be too bad. And now you'll notice that I loosen the front bolts first, right at the downpipe. That's just so I can hopefully tip this thing back by taking the tailpipe off first, take this section off, and then I can maybe tip this thing down and get at some of these connectors and wires that are up there, and then I can just disconnect it. There's also this hose, probably feeds in the urea, so I gotta take that and plug it off too. I'd like to take it apart so I can put it back if needed. I got the tailpipe out now. It came out the back, obviously, up and over the axle, twisted all around. This came out first. This is just the middle section. It's just attached right there. So now, I also brought my jack out to support this massive thing. But once that middle section came out, it was pretty easy. These rubber grommets, you can somehow get up there and get your hand behind it and push with like 2 fingers directly on this thing while it's in there. They'll come out a lot easier. I sprayed them with lube, and then once that soaks in, it only took about 5 minutes to get those off. I tried prying and everything, but it just doesn't seem to work. And that's with the new muffler setup on. You just start up at the downpipe, clamp on your first piece, and just continue on. Use some jack stands to hold it up while you're setting everything in place. Put your hangers in. So I'm just doing the shift on the fly switch. I got my wire through the firewall just to pull the wires. And somewhere down there on this cack tube, there is a sensor. I think it's that one. I'm going to unplug that sensor and then plug my switch into that wiring and just leave the sensor bare. So we're just going to take over that wiring. Some of them use the fuel sensor. Some of your shift on the fly switches use the fuel sensor, which is one of those, I think. But this one is the CAC. In order to do the pass through, what I did is I went off this big grommet here, and it's got this little circle thing at the top, right where in the middle of this wire. So I cut a hole in that circle thing, and that comes out. That circle thing comes out on that little, there's a rubber extension piece down there. I don't know if you can see it. You can see that rubber nipple sticking out there, and I got my wire sticking out of it. Looks kind of like a dink. That thing is where my wires went through. Here's the actual switch. It just looks like a potentiometer to me. And it's got a cap and an indicator dial that go on it. And to get these wires through without wrecking my pins, I'm going to tape these to my little pass-through wire. It's just mechanics wire that I shoved through there. I'll tape them together and then I'll be able to pull them through without wrecking them. got my switch all installed on the far side. Nice. It's just this little bracket I screwed into there. I just had that bracket laying around. And those wires just came up through there, obviously. And then up and to here. I took that connection from there, that sensor, and brought it over to here. For my EGR delete, there's a bare plug you could see in there that had an orange connector on it. And I had to take out this 8mm bolt, get a little bit of room, and then I had to use a screwdriver to hold the tab and a screwdriver to pry it off. And then I forced it back this way underneath. I got a better hold of it there, and then I forced it back more underneath. And I've got it zip tied right there right now. The other part of the EGR is this, right beside your air box, this EGR solenoid. There was a plug right there, and I got that out of the way and taped off. And then there's also this plug right here on this little, looks like a vacuum solenoid of some kind, and that one comes off, and I routed it back here too and just taped it up. And that's all I did for my EGR delete. And I know a couple people that have done that and they haven't had any issues at all for a couple of years, so that's all I'm gonna do for now. But that's the end of the full delete on my tow rig.